A bright young teacher, a bridesmaid at a friend's wedding, and a life cut tragically short. For over 25 years, the murder of Mary Catherine Edwards remained a haunting mystery. With a breakthrough in forensic science and relentless investigation, justice finally caught up with her killer. Join us as we unravel the chilling details of betrayal, murder, and the pursuit of truth in the case that shocked the community and inspired hope for unsolved crimes everywhere.
On January 14, 1995, the quiet community of Beaumont, Texas, was shaken to its core. Mary Catherine Edwards, a 31-year-old beloved elementary school teacher, was discovered lifeless in her home. Her parents, concerned after not hearing from her, made the grim discovery. Mary was found in her bathroom, her hands handcuffed behind her back, and her head submerged in a water-filled bathtub. The scene was both horrifying and perplexing, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The initial investigation revealed no signs of forced entry, suggesting that Mary might have known her attacker. The use of police-grade Smith & Wesson handcuffs added a chilling layer to the mystery, leading some to speculate about the possible involvement of someone within law enforcement. Despite these leads, the case quickly grew cold. The Beaumont Police Department, alongside the Texas Rangers, conducted numerous interviews and followed various leads, but each path seemed to lead to a dead end. Mary's family and friends were left in a state of profound grief and confusion. She was remembered as a dedicated teacher, a loving daughter, and a cherished friend. Her sudden and violent death left a void in the community, and the lack of answers only deepened the wound. Vigils were held, and her story was featured in local news segments, but as the years passed, hope for justice began to wane. The case remained dormant for over 2 decades. Advancements in forensic technology, particularly in DNA analysis, were on the horizon, but in the mid-90s, such tools were not yet available. The evidence collected at the scene was meticulously preserved, awaiting a time when science could provide the answers that eluded investigators. Mary's family held onto the hope that one day, her killer would be brought to justice. In the years that followed, the Beaumont Police Department periodically revisited the case. New detectives would take a fresh look at the evidence, hoping to uncover something that had been missed. Despite their efforts, the case remained unsolved, a haunting reminder of a life taken too soon. The community, though moving forward, never forgot Mary or the tragedy that befell her. As time marched on, the field of forensic science made significant strides. DNA analysis became more sophisticated, and the concept of genetic genealogy began to emerge as a powerful tool in solving cold cases. Unbeknownst to Mary's family and the community, the seeds of justice were being sown, waiting for the right moment to bear fruit. In 2020, the Texas Rangers, in collaboration with the Beaumont Police Department, decided to take another look at Mary's case. They were determined to utilize the latest advancements in forensic science to bring closure to a case that had haunted them for years. The evidence collected in 1995 was sent to specialized labs for analysis, marking the beginning of a renewed quest for justice. The process was meticulous and time-consuming. Samples were carefully examined, and DNA profiles were developed. Investigators knew that this was their best chance to identify Mary's killer, and they approached the task with unwavering determination. The community, upon learning of the renewed efforts, felt a glimmer of hope that justice might finally be served. As the analysis progressed, investigators began to see the light at the end of a very long tunnel. The DNA evidence was promising, and the potential for a breakthrough was within reach. The dedication of the law enforcement agencies involved was evident, and their commitment to solving Mary's case never wavered. The stage was set for a revelation that would bring long-awaited answers to a grieving family and community. In early 2021, the painstaking efforts of the investigators began to pay off. The DNA evidence collected from the crime scene was subjected to advanced genetic genealogy analysis, a technique that had recently gained prominence in solving cold cases. This method involves tracing familial connections through DNA databases, potentially leading to the identification of suspects who might not be in criminal databases. The analysis led to a significant breakthrough. Investigators identified a potential suspect, Clayton Bernard Foreman, a 61-year-old man residing in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Foreman was not a stranger to Mary. In fact, he was a former classmate from high school, and Mary had even served as a bridesmaid at his wedding. This connection added a complex layer to the case, intertwining past relationships with the present investigation. With this new lead, the Texas Rangers and the Beaumont Police Department coordinated with authorities in Ohio to gather more information on Foreman. They obtained a DNA sample from him, which was then compared to the DNA evidence from the 1995 crime scene. The results were conclusive. Foreman's DNA matched the sample collected from Mary's home, providing the evidence needed to move forward with an arrest. On April 29, 2021, Foreman was arrested in Ohio and charged with the capital murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. The arrest sent shockwaves through both the Beaumont and Reynoldsburg communities. Many were stunned to learn that someone who had once been close to Mary was now accused of her brutal murder. The news brought a mix of relief and sorrow to those who had kept Mary's memory alive for over 2 decades. Following his arrest, Foreman was extradited to Jefferson County, Texas, to face charges. The legal proceedings began, and the community watched closely, eager for justice to be served. The case garnered national attention, highlighting the power of modern forensic science in solving crimes that had long been considered unsolvable. Mary's family expressed gratitude for the relentless efforts of law enforcement, finding solace in the progress being made. In late 2021, the trial of Clayton Bernard Foreman began in Jefferson County, Texas. The courtroom was packed with Mary Catherine Edwards' family, friends, and community members who had waited over 2 decades for this moment. The prosecution opened with a compelling narrative, recounting Mary's life, her tragic death, and the betrayal that led to it. The air was heavy with emotion as they laid out the chilling details of the evidence. DNA evidence became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. Forensic experts testified about the scientific process that linked Foreman's DNA to the crime scene. The match was definitive, leaving no room for alternative explanations. The testimony was clear, precise, and irrefutable, providing the foundation for the case against Foreman. Prosecutors also presented witnesses who testified about Foreman's history of violent behavior. Former acquaintances shared unsettling stories of his past, including allegations of sexual misconduct and a troubling pattern of aggression. This painted a picture of a man capable of committing such a heinous crime, further strengthening the case against him. The defense attempted to challenge the credibility of the DNA evidence, questioning the methods and procedures used. They argued that advancements in technology might leave room for error or misinterpretation. However, the forensic experts confidently refuted these claims, detailing the rigorous protocols followed in the analysis. The jury listened closely, their expressions reflecting the weight of the evidence. In addition to the DNA match, the prosecution highlighted the unique details of the crime scene. The handcuffs used in Mary's murder, identified as police-grade Smith & Wesson cuffs, were a significant piece of evidence. Investigators traced their origin, linking them to Foreman through his connections and access. This detail underscored the premeditated nature of the crime. Prosecutors also focused on Foreman's connection to Mary, revealing that she had been a bridesmaid at his wedding. This link shocked many in the courtroom, emphasizing the betrayal of trust at the heart of the case. It was a reminder that the murderer wasn't a stranger, but someone who had once been close to her. Emotional testimonies from Mary's family and friends provided a heart-wrenching reminder of the loss they endured. Her parents spoke of her kindness, her dedication to her students, and the hole her absence left in their lives. Their words brought many in the courtroom to tears, reinforcing the devastating impact of Foreman's actions. The timeline of events leading to Mary's death was reconstructed in vivid detail. Investigators pieced together Foreman's movements and actions, showing how he had targeted Mary and meticulously carried out the crime. The narrative was chilling, laying bare the calculated nature of his attack. The jury deliberated for several hours after the closing arguments, carefully reviewing the evidence. Foreman sat motionless as the verdict was read. The jury found him guilty of the capital murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and tears as justice was finally served. The sentencing phase of the trial brought additional emotional moments. The prosecution argued for the maximum penalty, emphasizing the brutality of the crime and the decades of anguish suffered by Mary's family. The defense sought leniency, pointing to Foreman's age and the time that had passed since the murder. In the end, the court handed down a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Mary's family expressed their gratitude to the investigators, prosecutors, and everyone who had worked tirelessly on the case. While the verdict could not bring Mary back, it provided a sense of closure and justice. Her parents spoke to the press, sharing their relief that the man who had taken their daughter's life would never harm anyone else. The case became a landmark in the use of genetic genealogy and DNA analysis, serving as a powerful example of how modern science could solve even the coldest of cases. It highlighted the importance of perseverance and innovation in the pursuit of justice. The community of Beaumont held a memorial for Mary following the trial's conclusion. Friends and family gathered to celebrate her life, sharing stories of her kindness, her dedication to teaching, and her unwavering love for those around her. It was a bittersweet moment, a time to grieve and also to heal. Mary's story became a beacon of hope for families still waiting for justice in unsolved cases. It showed that no matter how much time passes, there is always a chance for answers. Her legacy lives on, not only in the hearts of those who knew her, but also in the advancements in forensic science that her case inspired. The trial and conviction of Clayton Bernard Foreman closed a painful chapter in the lives of many. It was a reminder of the resilience of a community united by tragedy and their determination to see justice served. Mary's memory continues to inspire hope, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth.
Beaumont, Texas, 1995. Small town, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. Kids could ride their bikes and
Safe.
Yeah, totally safe. But that all changed. One January morning, Mary Catherine Edwards, she was a beloved elementary school teacher.
Right.
And she was found murdered in her home.
It's a case that really sticks with you. The crime scene was it was baffling right from the start. Mary was found handcuffed with police grade Smith & Wesson handcuffs, no less, and her head was submerged in the bathtub.
A bathtub full of water. I remember reading that detail and just
Chilling.
Yeah, chilling. And what really got me was that there was no sign of forced entry.
Right. So immediately investigators are thinking, did Mary know her attacker? Did she let someone in, someone she trusted?
It's a question that must have haunted them from day one. And those handcuffs, I mean, what do you make of those?
Well, it certainly raises a lot of questions. Were they meant to mislead investigators, or did they point to someone with law enforcement connections? So the Beaumont Police Department, they called in the Texas Rangers. They put everything into this case. Countless interviews, I mean.
It chased down every lead, every possible angle. But it was like
dead end after dead end.
Yeah. And you have to remember, this was 1995. Forensic technology. It wasn't what it is today. I mean, we take DNA testing for granted now, but back then, it was a different world.
Yeah. They were working without the tools we now consider, well,
essential.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that this wasn't just a problem for Mary's case. This was happening
all over.
Yeah, all over. So many families left waiting for answers that might never come.
It's heartbreaking, really, to think about all those families, all that grief compounded by the lack of answers and the advancements we've seen in forensic science. It's remarkable. I mean, it's given closure to so many families that might have otherwise never seen justice.
For Mary's family and friends, though, they had this unimaginable loss, and the lack of answers just made the grief that much heavier, definitely. And reading through the reports from back then, you can really sense the community's
heartbreak.
Yeah, heartbreak. Like their sense of safety was just shattered. And as time passed, the months turned into years.
And the case went cold.
Exactly.
It's the thing about cold cases, they become these open wounds for communities, a constant reminder of those unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And the fact that someone got away with something terrible.
But even as the years passed and the leads dried up, Mary's loved ones, they never gave up hope.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. They held on to this belief that somehow, someday, there would be justice for Mary.
That unwavering hope, especially with the investigation at a standstill, and the lack of advanced technology at the time. I mean, that played a huge role, no doubt.
But then something amazing happened. Forensic science. It went through this total transformation. Suddenly, there were new tools, new possibilities.
It was a revolution. DNA analysis and this new technique called genetic genealogy. They started cracking open cold cases left and right. Cases that had been cold for decades were suddenly getting a second look, and families were finally getting answers. And it was really this revolution in forensics that gave Mary's case a second chance. In 2020, the Texas Rangers, they teamed up with the Beaumont Police Department.
Okay.
And they decided to reopen the investigation.
I mean, after all that time, it must have felt like such a
long shot.
Yeah, long shot.
Right, but sometimes all it takes is that one little clue.
Right.
One tiny piece of the puzzle.
To unlock the whole thing.
Exactly. And with these new DNA techniques, investigators were able to go back and re-examine the old evidence, with a fresh perspective. It's like, imagine you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, but this time you have a magnet.
A magnet. And that magnet was genetic genealogy. I got to admit, when I first read about how they used it in Mary's case, I
went away.
Yeah. I mean, can you explain a little bit more about how it works?
Sure. So genetic genealogy, it's basically like building a family tree using DNA.
Yeah.
Investigators can take a DNA sample from a crime scene and compare it to these massive databases looking for familial matches,
Wow.
They trace those connections, work their way through generations until they zero in on a potential suspect.
And in Mary's case, it actually worked.
It did. Genetic genealogy led investigators to a man named Clayton Bernard Foreman. He was 61 years old, living in Ohio.
So they finally had a suspect after all these years.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just some random guy.
What do you mean?
Foreman, he was actually a former classmate of Mary's from high school.
No way.
Yeah. And get this, she was a bridesmaid at his wedding.
You're kidding.
Nope. It's like something out of a true crime novel.
So what happened next? I mean, did they bring Foreman in for questioning?
They did. And they obtained a DNA sample from him, compared it to the evidence from Mary's home. It was a match.
After 26 years.
26 years.
Wow. It's incredible to think that they finally had their answer.
It really speaks to the power of these advancements in forensic science, but it also speaks to the dedication of those investigators.
Right.
They never gave up.
They embraced the new technology.
They did. And ultimately, they brought a sense of closure to a case that had haunted that community for so long.
So what happened to Foreman?
He was arrested in Ohio in April 2021. charged with capital murder.
Wow. I can't imagine what that must have been like for both communities.
Yeah.
Beaumont, where, Mary's memory was still so vivid, and
Right.
Reynoldsburg, Ohio, where Foreman had been living.
Right. It was like the past had suddenly come crashing into the present.
And for Mary's family, it must have been such a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, relief that an arrest had been made. But also, the resurfacing of all that pain from their loss.
Absolutely.
After all those years of waiting and wondering.
Suddenly, it was all back in the spotlight.
So the trial, that began in late 2021.
Yes. In Jefferson County, Texas, the courtroom was packed. Family, friends, reporters.
Everybody
was there to witness what they hoped would be the final chapter in this long and heartbreaking story. The prosecution, they laid out a really meticulous case. They used DNA evidence, witness testimony, details from the crime scene. They really painted a picture of Foreman's guilt.
What about those handcuffs, the police grade ones? Did they ever figure out where those came from?
They did. They traced the origin of the handcuffs.
Okay.
And they were able to link them back to Foreman through his personal connections.
So it wasn't just a random crime of opportunity.
No, it suggested that this was premeditated.
What about the defense? What was their strategy?
They tried to challenge the DNA evidence, of course.
Right.
But the science was it was too strong.
And then you had the testimonies from Mary's family and friends.
Right, sharing their memories of her, talking about the impact her loss had on their lives. It was powerful.
Yeah.
It really brought that human element to the case.
Right.
It wasn't just about facts and evidence anymore.
It was about a life stolen.
Exactly.
A family shattered.
It really resonated with the jury. After hours of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict.
Guilty of capital murder.
Yes. Foreman was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Wow. For Mary's loved ones, that must have brought such a sense of closure.
Yeah.
Knowing that the man responsible for taking her life would never be free again.
And for those who worked tirelessly on the case, it must have been so rewarding to finally see justice served.
It shows the power of perseverance.
Absolutely. The importance of embracing new technology. The unwavering commitment to seeking truth, no matter how much time has passed.
It really makes you think, about the power of forensic science. But there's another layer to the story that we haven't really talked about.
Oh.
The ethical side of things.
Right.
Using genetic genealogy to solve crimes, it raises a lot of questions.
It does. I mean, this case and others like it, they've sparked a lot of debate about privacy and the use of genetic information in investigations.
Yeah.
As this technology keeps getting more advanced, it's
a slippery slope.
Yeah. Where do we draw the line? How do we balance the pursuit of justice with the right to privacy?
It's like, on the one hand, you have this incredible tool that can help bring closure to families.
Right.
And hold criminals accountable. But then, you have to think about how that information is collected and stored.
And used. And it's not just about the individuals whose DNA is actually in those databases.
It's their families.
Yeah. Their relatives, people who never consented to having their genetic information used in this way.
It's a complicated issue. No easy answers.
Nope.
But it's a conversation we need to have, especially as genetic genealogy becomes more
common.
Yeah, more commonplace in law enforcement. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mary Catherine Edwards' case, what stands out to you most?
Well, for me, I think it's the way this case highlights the convergence of science, human perseverance, and the complexities of memory and justice.
Yeah.
You see this groundbreaking use of DNA technology.
Which is amazing.
It is. It's a real testament to human ingenuity,
Yeah.
And our constant pursuit of answers.
But it's also a reminder that, behind every case file, every headline,
there were real people.
Yeah. Real people whose lives have been forever changed by these events. It makes you wonder how many other cold cases are out there just waiting for that one breakthrough.
Right.
That one piece of evidence that could unlock the truth.
It's a sobering thought, but there's hope there too.
Right.
As technology keeps evolving.
Who knows what other mysteries might be solved? What other families might finally get those answers they've been searching for?
It's what makes this field so fascinating. It's constantly evolving, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And for listeners who are intrigued by Mary's story and the power of forensic science, I encourage you to dig deeper. There are so many stories out there. Each one offers a glimpse into the human experience.
Absolutely. The pursuit of justice.
Yeah.
The incredible things we can accomplish when we combine science with just pure determination.
Keep asking questions, stay curious,
And never underestimate the power of one small clue.
to unravel even the most intricate mysteries.
Well said.
And as you go about your day-to-day, remember Mary Catherine Edwards.
Yes.
Remember her story, her family's resilience, and the power of hope, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious.